The provisional agenda for this meeting is maintenance of international peace and security, promoting international peace and security through multilateralism, and the peaceful settlement of disputes. The agenda is adopted. I would like to warmly welcome the Secretary General, the distinguished ministers, and other high-level representatives present in the Security Council chamber. Your presence today underscores the importance of the subject matter under discussion. Before each of you is a list of speakers who have requested to participate in accordance with Rules 37 and 39 of the Council's Provisional Rules of Procedure. We propose that they be invited to participate in this meeting. There being no objection, it is so decided. The Security Council will now begin its consideration of item 2 of the agenda. I wish to draw the attention of the Council members to document S/2025/443, a letter dated 1st of July 2025 from the Permanent Representative of Pakistan to the United Nations, addressed to the Secretary General, transmitting a concert paper on the item under consideration. Members of the Council have before them document S/2025/480, the text of a draft resolution submitted by Pakistan. The Council is ready to proceed to the vote on the draft resolution before it. I shall put the draft resolution to the vote now. Will those in favor of the draft resolution contained in the document S/2025/480 please raise their hands? The result of the voting, I think, is all consensus. The draft resolution has been adopted unanimously as Resolution 2788 of 2025. I now give the floor to Honorable Secretary General of the United Nations, His Excellency Mr. Antonio Guterres.
Mr. President, Excellencies, I want to thank Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar and Pakistan for convening today's open debate. The topic of today's debate shines a light on the clear connection between international peace and multilateralism. 8 years ago, the United Nations was founded with a primary purpose: to safeguard humanity from the scourge of war. The architects of the United Nations Charter recognized that the peaceful resolution of disputes is the lifeline when geopolitical tensions escalate, when unresolved disputes fuel the flames of conflict, and when states lose trust in each other. The Charter lays out a number of important tools to forge peace. Article 2.3 of the UN Charter is clear. All members shall settle their international disputes by peaceful means, in such a manner that international peace and security and justice are not endangered. Chapter 6 of the Charter is equally clear on the specific responsibilities of this Council to help ensure the pacific settlement of disputes by negotiation, inquiry, mediation, conciliation, arbitration, judicial settlement, resort to regional agencies or arrangements, or other peaceful means of their own choice. Action 16 of the Pact of the Future calls on Member States to recommit to all the mechanisms of preventive diplomacy and the peaceful settlement of disputes. I commend Pakistan for utilizing its presidency to put forward the resolution urging all Member States to make full use of these tools in our collective pursuit of global peace. This is needed now more than ever. Around the world, we see an utter disregard for, if not outright violation of, international law, including international human rights law, international refugee law, international humanitarian law, and the UN Charter itself, without any accountability. These failures to uphold international obligations are coming at a time of a widening geopolitical divides and conflicts. And the cost is staggering, measured in human lives, shattered communities, and lost futures. We need look no further than the horror show in Gaza, with a level of death and destruction without parallel in recent times. Malnourishment is soaring, starvation is knocking on every door. And now we are seeing the last gasp of a humanitarian system built on humanitarian principles. This system is being denied the conditions to function, denied the space to deliver, denied the safety to save lives. With Israeli military operations intensifying and new displacement orders issued in Deir al-Balah, devastation is being layered upon devastation. I am appalled that UN premises have been struck, among them facilities of the UN Office for Project Services and the World Health Organization, including WHO's main warehouse. This is despite all parties having been informed of the locations of these UN facilities. These premises are inviolable and must be protected under international humanitarian law without exception. From Gaza to Ukraine, from Sahel to Sudan, Haiti and Myanmar, and many other parts of the world, conflict is raging, international law is being trampled, and anger and displacement are at record levels. And terrorism, violent extremism, and transnational crime remain persistent scourges, pushing security further out of reach. Diplomacy may not have always succeeded in preventing conflicts, violence, and instability, but it still holds the power to stop them. Mr. President, peace is a choice, and the world expects the UN Security Council to help countries make this choice. This Council is at the center of the global architecture for peace and security. Its creation reflected a central truth. Competition between states is a geopolitical reality, but cooperation, anchored in shared interests and the greater good, is the sustainable pathway to peace. Too often, we see divisions, entrenched positions, and escalatory discourse blocking solutions and the effectiveness of the Council. But we have also seen some inspiring examples of finding common ground and forging solutions to global problems. For example, today marks 3 years since the signing of the Black Sea Initiative and the Memorandum of Understanding with the Russian Federation, efforts that show that we can achieve through mediation and the good offices of the United Nations, even during the most challenging moments. And we've seen many other recent examples. From the Seville Conference on Financing for Development, to the Oceans Conference in Nice, to the agreement on marine biological diversity of areas beyond national jurisdiction and the Cybercrime Treaty, to the Pact for the Future adopted last year. The Pact in particular demonstrates a clear recommitment by the world to strengthen the United Nations collective security system. Drawing from the new Agenda for Peace, it prioritizes preventive diplomacy and mediation, all areas where this Council can play a vital role. As we look to the theme of today's debate, I see 3 areas where we can live up to the Pact's call to renew our commitment to, and the world's face in, the multilateral problem-solving architecture. First, this Council's members, in particular its permanent members, must continue working to overcome divisions. The majority of situations on the Security Council agenda are complex and resist quick fixes. But even in the darkest days of the Cold War, the collective dialogue and decision-making in this Council underpinned a common and effective system of global security, one that successfully developed a range of peacekeeping missions, one that opened the door for vital humanitarian aid to flow to people in need, and one that helped prevent a third world war. I urge you to summon this same spirit by keeping channels open, continue to listen in good faith and working to overcome differences and building consensus. We must also work to ensure that this Council reflects the world of today, not the world of 80 years ago. This Council should be made more representative of today's geopolitical realities. And we must continue improving the working methods of this Council to make it more inclusive, transparent, efficient and accountable. I urge you to continue building consensus to move the intergovernmental negotiations forward. Second, this Council must continue strengthening cooperation with regional and sub-regional partners. The landmark adoption of Security Council Resolution 2719, supporting African Union-led peace support operations through assessed contributions, is a good example of how we can join efforts with regional organizations to support more effective responses. I also commend this Council's steps to strengthen and rebuild regional security frameworks to encourage dialogue and advance the peaceful settlement of disputes. Troisièmement,
and third, member states must honor their obligations under international law, including the UN Charter, international human rights law, and international humanitarian law. The Pact for the Future on all member states to live up to their commitments as enshrined in the UN Charter, as well as to uphold the principles of the respect for sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the political independence of states. All of these principles are grounded in international law and are buttressed by a commitment to prioritize prevention of conflict and the peaceful settlement of disputes through dialogue and diplomacy. The Pact for the Future also recognizes the critical contribution made by the International Court of Justice, which celebrates its 80th anniversary next year. Mr. President, as we mark the 80th anniversary of our organization and of the charter that gave it life and shape, we must renew our commitment to the multilateral spirit of peace through diplomacy. I look forward to working with you in this important endeavor in order to achieve international peace and security, the international peace and security that the people of this world need and deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary General. I shall now make a statement in my capacity as Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Foreign Affairs of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. Mr. Secretary General, fellow ministers, excellencies, distinguished delegates, it is a great honor and pleasure to preside over today's high-level open debate of the UN Security Council on the important theme of promoting international peace and security through multilateralism and peaceful settlement of disputes. Pakistan is striving to fulfill the solemn responsibility of Security Council's presidency with a deep sense of purpose, humility, and conviction. Our approach will continue to remain anchored in the purposes and principles of the UN Charter, respect for international law, and a steadfast commitment to multilateralism. I thank Secretary General for his thoughtful and insightful remarks. We deeply appreciate Secretary General's leadership and the commitment in upholding the noble ideals enshrined in the UN Charter. I also wish to acknowledge the high level of interest among the UN membership in today's open debate, including ministerial participation. We look forward to hearing their important contributions. I am extremely pleased with the adoption of the Resolution 2788 on strengthening mechanism for peaceful settlement of disputes by the Council today. It is indeed a welcome expression of our collective will and the determination to pursuing dialogue and diplomacy for the pacific settlement of disputes in full conformity with the Charter and the expectations of the international community. I thank all Council members for their positive and constructive engagement with Pakistan's delegation in achieving this important consensus. Excellencies, today's debate is both timely and urgent. Multilateralism is not merely a diplomatic convenience, it is the need of the hour. Peaceful settlement of dispute is not just a principle, it is the lifeline of global stability. The international community today faces a deeply troubling landscape of unresolved conflicts, festering disputes, and new and escalating crises. Geopolitical rivalries, erosion of trust in multilateral institutions, and persistent non-compliance with Security Council resolutions continue to undermine our shared commitment to the maintenance of the international peace and security and respect for international law. Around the world, unresolved disputes have morphed into prolonged conflicts. The flames of war rage in several regions across the globe. These crises have inflicted untold human sufferings, displaced millions, and undermined our collective faith in the international system's ability to deliver justice and peace. Excellencies, we must collectively acknowledge that durable peace is not forged through power projection or unilateralism, but through dialogue, mutual respect, and inclusive diplomacy. The centrality of multilateralism, as reaffirmed in the Pact for the Future, offers a framework for trust building and cooperation essential to conflict prevention and resolution. Pakistan remains a firm believer in the promise and power of multilateralism. As a long-standing member of the United Nations and one of the largest troop contributing countries to the UN peacekeeping, Pakistan's commitment to peace is principled, enduring, and consistent. Excellencies, peaceful settlement of disputes is not just a moral or legal imperative, it is a strategic necessity. Despite the Charter of the United Nations providing comprehensive tools under Chapter 6 for the pacific settlement of disputes, including negotiations, inquiry, mediations, conciliations, arbitration, and judicial settlement, these mechanisms remain underutilized or selectively applied. The Security Council has prime responsibility in this regard, yet we continue to witness the persistence and proliferation of unresolved conflicts, many of which remain on the Council agenda for decades. Selective implementation of Council resolutions, double standards, and the politicization of humanitarian principles have eroded its credibility and effectiveness. The ongoing tragedies in Palestine and the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir are vivid examples of this malice. The prolonged suffering of the Palestinian people, particularly in Gaza, remains a stark reminder of the urgent need for a just and lasting solution. Israel's latest onslaught in Gaza has killed over 58,000 Palestinians, mostly women and children. The humanitarian situation is dire, with civilians bearing the brunt of the violence and deprivations. We reiterate the call for an immediate, unconditional, and permanent ceasefire in Gaza and across the occupied territory. The ceasefire must serve as a stepping stone for a broader and durable peace. We earnestly hope that the upcoming conference on the two-state solution will reopen the political horizon and efforts towards a just and the peaceful settlement of the Palestinian question, leading to the realization of the independent and viable state of Palestine based on the pre-1967 borders with Al-Quds al-Sharif as its capital. Excellencies, Pakistan also remains steadfast in its desire for peace in our own region. But this cannot be one-sided effort. It requires reciprocity, sincerity, and willingness to engage in meaningful dialogue, for which Pakistan stands ready. Jammu and Kashmir remains one of the oldest disputes on the agenda of the UN Security Council. It is an internationally recognized disputed territory the final disposition of which is to be made in accordance with the relevant UN Security Council resolutions and the wishes of the Kashmiri people. No cosmetic measures can serve as a substitute for the fundamental and inalienable right to self-determination of the Kashmiris as guaranteed by the relevant UN Security Council resolutions.